Hello, everyone. We're here.
There
And
it
there's
is.
Tom. Let's bring him in. There's Tom Dongo.
Yeah, I was just I hit a full frame. Now I have a postage stamp uh, shot of me here. That this happened the other day too on a big show. Let's see if I click on this. Oh boy,
Oh,
I
I
don't want
see.
to.
Yeah, there are different views you can select. Uh,
Well,
yeah,
I got three dots here. I don't if I don't want to shut myself off. I've done that before, but normally there's one enlargement, a square that I can click on, but I don't see any here. Well, let me try it. Oh,
all right. While you're fiddling with it, let me go ahead and
yeah,
introduce you to
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah,
because we're live.
yeah.
And Lala and I are happy to have Tom Dongo with us tonight, who is a well-known person living in Sedona, Arizona. He's written many books, which I will go through, some of them. Merging Dimensions, Mysterious Sedona, The Mysteries of Sedona. I know I own the first three volumes, which are New Age Frontier, The Alien Tide, and The Quest in Pursuit of the Ultimate Mastery, and so forth. So Tom's written many books. He is a well-known researcher, having done a lot of work out at the Bradshaw Ranch near Sedona, where there's lots of activity and lots of strangeness. Melinda Leslie and I went out there together, and she and Tom know each other well. Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, it's an honor to be here.
And we're glad to have you. What's going on with you, Tom?
Oh well, I'm 79 years old, so things have slowed down some, but it never slows down too much around here. I can tell you that. There's a new thing. I guess I shouldn't name names, but these are top name people. We may have something going on this summer, and Melinda Leslie started it, but this could be the top of the line. Uh, uh, Scientific equipment, ground penetrating radar, and other stuff that at a site that Melinda's been intent with for quite a while now. So at any rate, I'm included. They told me so. It's never boring around here.
Nah, that is, she wants us to come out at least sometime during the next few months and go out on one of her tours or one of the weekend excursions and see
Yeah.
what we can see, because she and others, maybe you with her, have gone a little further than her normal place for UFO tours and seen triangles where from the side they look like glowing orbs, and underneath them they look like triangles. Have you seen this out there?
No, I haven't. But actually, Eric Jensen photographed one of those yesterday twice.
Yes,
So,
Wow.
yes. I know about Eric. Yes,
yeah,
he and I are Facebook friends.
yeah. So
And
yeah, it's never boring around here. So yeah, go ahead.
could you tell us some experiences you've had that are just crazy or something we won't forget? I always like to ask that question.
Oh, geez, I've got 8 books full of that stuff. And my newer book, Merging Dimensions, is basically a bestseller, and it's all about the Bradshaw Ranch. And I've had, oh, it's people ask me, what's the most incredible thing that ever happened to you in the Sedona area or at the Bradshaw Ranch? And I have to stop and think. I really don't know, because there's been so many, and I've been face to face. I've been face to face with 3 extraterrestrials, and Augie Nost on his show, he said, one of you was invisible, either you or they were. But at any rate, I was at Safeway supermarket, and these 2 people came in, and one was about as tall as Eric Jensen, about 6 foot.
Wow.
He was about, I'd say, well, I'm 6'2", so he would have been about 6'8". And the girl with him, she was a tall white, and I'm thinking, I'm looking around at people, the guy had one blue eye, one green eye,
Wow.
I mean, really distinct. And she was dressed all in black. Her skin was snow white, and she had wraparound sunglasses so you couldn't see her eyes. I know because I was standing 5 feet away from her. I was studying her. I wasn't going to pass up an opportunity like this. So I stood there, and the guy came over. He had kind of an amused look on his face, and they never looked at me once. But I was standing right beside them, and so he came over and took her by the arm and gently led her away. And people, it was busy that time. It was about 9 o'clock at night. It was real busy. People were wheeling cars by, and nobody looked. Nobody looked at them. I mean, they were really noticeable. So she pushed the cart around, and they were the last time I watched them, they were going down an aisle, and they were taking stuff off the shelves, and you could tell what they were saying, what they were talking about. They were saying humans actually eat this stuff, and then they put it back. They said, yeah, and and people used to say, what did they buy? What did they buy? I said, well, cheap hamburger, white bread, and a 6-pack of orange sodas.
Okay, so Bradshaw Ranch is clearly a big focus here. Tell us what you want to tell us about the history of Bradshaw Ranch. I know you knew the owners, but also tell us your history with Bradshaw Ranch to the extent you want to.
Well, I've been involved in it now. I'm pretty famous because of all the Bradshaw Ranch stuff. I've been on. Well, this is the 90th show I've been on, and I've talked to about 75 million people now. Been on coast to coast 3 times, and I always talk about the Bradshaw Ranch. Every show I'm on, I talk about the Bradshaw Ranch. So I was I just put a thing on the internet just a little while ago that it's had 300 likes. I've camped all over North America, the Yukon and Alaska, and I was camped in the high country up here about 5 years ago, I guess now, and I heard a voice in my head that said, "I'm all right. Don't worry about me." And I just got completely confused about that because it didn't make any sense at all. So a week later, somebody told me that Linda Bradshaw had died that night.
Oh.
So yeah, so anyway, it probably was Linda, because we were very close. People used to ask, well, Bob came out. He was on national TV twice, Bob Bradshaw, and he had a UFO came over the hill by the ranch, and he had a lot. So I imagine that's about 50 white spheres accompanying the disc. It was a big disc. It was 30 or 40 feet across, and it landed in the apple orchard at the ranch. And Bob is on Paranormal Borderline and a couple of other shows. They interviewed him about that, and that was enough for him. He didn't want to see any more. Linda and I were out there for 4.5 years because they invited me. Linda invited me out. She sent me a bunch of photographs of the stuff that she'd gotten, and most of it was orbs. And Linda Bradshaw and Linda Crystal in Pine Bush, New York, were the first ones to start photographing orbs, and it spread in months. It spread around the world. So anyway, Linda would go. So I ended up spending 4.5 years out there, 3 or 4 nights a week till 1 o'clock in the morning, and had incredible experiences. So anyway, our photographs are world famous for what we took. And almost all the good ones are in Merging Dimensions, my book, Merging Dimensions. So everybody go out and buy a copy of Merging Dimensions. So Bob stayed inside the ranch house watching TV. He would not come out. Linda would go in and say, "Bob, you've got to come out and see this." He wouldn't. He stayed. He never came. He never came out again after he saw that ship, that disc, land in the apple orchard. And anything to do with it, with all the stuff that was going on out around the ranch. And Bob was basically, he's an old Arizona redneck rancher. Heck of a good guy, but that's basically what, he was just a rancher. And he didn't want to know anything about this UFO silliness, this
Right.
nonsense. So anyway, so I spent 4.5 years after Linda sent me the letter inviting me out, and because I was dying to go out, and so we ended up spending 4.5 years until about 1995, and then Linda moved to Thompson's Falls, Montana, and remarried there. And so we've had a different camera crew every week out there, literally. I mean, you name it, Universal Studios, the NBC. I
Wow.
got to be such good friends with the NBC producer. We were going to try to sell a show on the Navajo about the Indians, because I've worked with the Indians as long as I've been here. The Apaches, the Navajos, the Zunis, the Hopis, and they told me they don't trust us white people. They just don't. None of them do.
Yeah.
So they got to trust me after a while. So they would tell me things, and I had friends. I had one woman friend. She was so well respected that she sat in on the councils. Usually that's only men, but she was invited to sit in on the council. So she and I would get together in Flagstaff, and she would say to me, after we talked, she would say, "Don't ever bring this up on the res, what I just told you." So, about the skinwalkers. The skinwalkers are real. Because I was heavily involved in that for a while, and the Navajo Rangers don't think too much of me. I haven't seen them in about 5 years, but their opinion is a little different than mine. But they're retired Navajo police, and they were heavily into skinwalkers and paranormal phenomenon on the Navajo reservation.
Well, that's when Melinda and I went out there, she didn't know what we would see, and it was like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was daylight. But we walked around, and there were all sorts of strange footprints, including some Bigfoot-looking prints. And then we walked away from the gate, well out down towards the kind of the last building. It was a little white house with two windows, and inside that thing, I could see a shadow figure moving through the building. And so, and just the eeriest feelings wherever you go out there. It was pretty amazing. It was also clear that at one time that place was very beautiful, but boy, was it run down now.
Well, the ranch is in ruins. I mean, it's basically the grass is waist high. The windows have been smashed out, and because the Bradshaws haven't been there for a long time. And they had the government. It's government property now, and they've leased it to the Forest Service. And the Forest Service leased it to Northern Arizona University for study of the biological plants and grasses and all that stuff in Arizona. So. Yeah, it's completely, at least now they don't have armed guards up there. And I'll tell you a story. I have endless stories.
Please.
I was out there with a Japanese crew one night, and my friend Blair Carl said, "Hey, let's go to the ranch." And there was a sign in the front. This is U.S. government property. Trespassers will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I told the Japanese film crew, get a good shot of that before we go over the fence. So they did. They put their lights on it and all that, and got a good shot of it. And so we went on to the ranch. And back then, you never knew when a guard was going to show up.
Right.
So you get arrested, So we were pretty cautious about it. And so we were behind the ranch house a little bit, and I heard a sound. And it's funny, my hearing's never been that good. But I said to these guys, the Japanese guys, do you hear that? Nobody did. Everybody was straining their ears, and nobody did. But it was the creepiest sound I think I have ever heard. And so we got closer to it, and it was coming out of the kitchen of the ranch house. And then everything had been taken out, or whatever. It was basically nothing in the house. So anyway, we got close to the windows, close to the doors, and that sound, I can't imitate it. You know, it was just the creepiest sound. Really, really scared us. So we thought, well, we must have triggered some kind of an alarm, and we beat it out of there real fast because we figured there were going to be white vans or Suburbans coming flying down the hill. So we went back up on top of the hill of Bradshaw Hill, and nobody came. So it wasn't it wasn't an alarm. If it was, somebody would have showed up with guns, but nobody did. So it had to have been something alien. It was the creepiest sound I think I've ever heard in my life. And to the Japanese, they all heard it too. I can talk about this stuff for forever.
I have a question
Yeah.
about skinwalkers.
Yeah.
You said your opinion was a little different about them than could you?
No, not really different, but our personalities didn't jive. That's the thing, You can have the same opinion with some people, but your personalities are just not. You don't get along real good, so that's basically it. But I knew what they knew about skinwalkers on the Navajo reservation, and it's pretty creepy stuff. Because I knew first person. I interviewed some of these people. Well, for instance, near Window Rock, a skinwalker was hit. A car hit it. So the person the person didn't know what to do. So put the skinwalker in the car and took it to the hospital. And it was laying there on a bed, and the doctors and nurses came in and said, "We're not going to touch that thing because it's not human."
Oh.
And I can prove this. I mean, that's at the time. I can't now. Yeah, I can't now, but so it got up. I mean, it was pretty banged up because it got hit by a car, but it got up and ran out of the hospital in Window Rock.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I know. And then there was, it's like my friend, the girl, Pye, Pye was her name, Pye. And she said, she would tell me stuff that, to us, that wouldn't matter. But she would say, don't ever bring this up on the res. And she would tell me some of these stories. So, I mean, you don't talk about skinwalkers on it's basically Navajo. The Utes and Zunis and Hopis they have, I don't know of any skinwalker stories they've had, but it seems to be all Navajo. So anyway, there was another story. I think Pye might have told me this, but a coyote was shot in the hip with a high-powered rifle, and it got away. And the next day, they found an old man dead in his cabin with a big bullet wound in his hip.
Wow.
I believe it. I do.
Yeah.
So he shapeshifted back to human as he died, or just before he died.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, these stories sound like BS, but they're not. I check them out.
They're not. I believe it. I had a dream about a coyote on my back porch, and it scared me. I woke up from the dream. I went out back to smoke a cigarette. I smoked at the time. And when I opened the back porch, that coyote was sitting on my porch looking at me. And we don't have coyotes where I'm at. That was my first time seeing one.
Yeah.
So I believe it.
Well, then you're talking about so when we first moved into this place, orbs inside and outside were the first things we saw.
Yeah.
And then after we put up better cameras so that we record stuff automatically, we're getting all sorts of craft and surveillance craft and quote helicopters surveilling us, including one flew right over our head illegally high. And we had missing time during that helicopter flyover, and none of our neighbors complained, so they didn't hear it either. Just all weird stuff here is going on with us now.
Yeah, well, I've seen this personally a number of times. UFOs or whatever they are can mimic a helicopter, a plane, or a car perfectly. And they're not. Well, I talked about this the other day, but Bill Hamilton, who was at the time the top UFO researcher in the world, this was about 30 years ago. Me and Bill was standing side by side on the Bradshaw Ranch, and right in front of us, maybe 150 feet, a white orb came up out of the ground. And this has happened a lot in Crestone, Colorado, in the San Luis Valley. Actually, while I was there once, it actually happened. People told me about it, and I didn't see it. But at any rate, this orb came drifting out of the ground, went up about, 300 feet, and turned into a light plane, a one-engine Cessna. And it had all the lights, the correct flashing lights on it, and the engine sounds. Then it flew off right over Sedona. And it wasn't a real plane. It was something else. I want to say UFOs, but it could be something else that I don't understand.
Right.
So did you, in any of the apparitions you saw right in front of you, did any of them ever look like they came through smoke before you saw them?
Well, that's a good question. Well, the girl, she looked about 27, and she was an extraterrestrial. We were by myself and my girlfriend were way off in the boonies where it had been raining and snowing heavy, so the ground there was 6 inches of mud on the ground, and the girl, she came out of nowhere, and women, even though there's very little crime around here, women almost always have a dog with them, and so I was soaked with sweat, feeling kind of miserable because it got to be a hot, humid day. And I was trying to find a trail down to some petroglyphs. And so I'm standing there just confused of what to do next. And this girl comes walking out of the pine trees, the small pines, the pinyon pines. They're about 15 feet tall. And she had street clothes on. She had red pants and a white thick wool sweater. And she came walking over, and if I remember correctly, she had street shoes on. But so anyway, she went over to talk to my girlfriend, and I probably told this story 10,000 times on big TV shows. I never get tired of it because it was so incredible. But anyway, she was talking to my girlfriend, and then she walked over to me. And the water was roaring down in the arroyo, and so she kind of whispered, almost in a whisper. So I had to put my ear right up to her mouth, and like I say, she looked about 27 years old, not particularly pretty, but nice, average looking. So anyway, so I said, "Do you happen to know where the trail is down to the ruins?" The petroglyphs, and she pointed like right there, "You fool," So I'm looking, I walk over, and sure enough, it rained so much it changed the trail. So I thanked her. I said, "Well, thank you very much. So this is the trail." So we went down, and we had serious hiking boots on, cleats and lugs on them, so we didn't have any trouble getting down there because it was very steep. I mean, it was almost vertical. So the girl, I didn't pay any more attention to the girl because I thought, I didn't think much of it. Anyway, so I got down there, and I'm studying the petroglyphs, and they're all the petroglyphs around here are over 800 years old. The Sanawa Indians disappeared about 800 to 1,000 years ago. So all the petroglyphs are probably between 800 and 1,000 years old. They're very interesting. So anyway, I was looking at the petroglyphs, and I turned around, and the girl was 10 inches in front of my face. It took me back. I had to, and I'm looking at it, and I look up, and I look around. I'm trying to think, how did she possibly get there? Would have been impossible for her to come down that trail in street shoes. And so she started talking to me. I had to put my ear right up to her mouth, and she was saying things that didn't make any sense about the petroglyphs. So my girlfriend yelled to me. She was about 50 feet away by the water. So I hadn't looked away from the girl for more than 10 seconds. So I turned back, and she was gone. Wow. She blinked out. A ghost can't do that. I've studied ghosts. No human can do that. I don't care who they are. No human can do that. So I could see for hundreds of yards in all directions, and she was nowhere. And there's no way she could have gone back up that trail. It'd been impossible. So anyway, that was she had to have been an extraterrestrial. That's my my conclusion about that.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. So Linda Thompson, who is in our chat room, took the video of the helicopter that flew over us while we had missing time, and she did audio analysis and said this does not have the audio profile of a normal helicopter. So it was something that was mimicking a helicopter.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's just something. Well, there was I interviewed. You name it, I've done it. My saying is I used to hunt them on their turf. I didn't sit in an armchair and read books. I hunted them on their turf, and so I interviewed many people that had Men in Black encounters, and there were always these 1949 black Cadillacs that were too big, or they just didn't look right. So the cars weren't real. I mean, there was something else. They're just, it was always a black Cadillac, like late 40s or whatever. And so, and I don't think anybody really knows what the Men in Black, who they were, whether they were aliens or U.S. government or a combination of both. I don't think anybody knows. But,
a lot of people that have seen something in their face say their face looked like plastic, but not quite human.
Well, a friend of mine talked to one of them. Actually, and it's the ones that their eyes are all black. They don't have any pupils, that are dangerous. They're extremely dangerous. And what's even more dangerous are the children. And it's been years before anybody's had a report of children that would come to the door and ask if they could come in. And they had their eyes were all black, and those children were extremely dangerous. Or they would come up to a car and say, "Can we get into your car?" And they were so weird. People would let them in because they were scared of them. And sometimes a few people I interviewed said, "No way, beat it, kids. Don't get any closer to me." So I mean, there's been some strange stuff that happened, but really doesn't happen anymore.
What are the black-eyed kids there for? If they do go in the house, do those people end up missing, or what happens to them?
Well, there were some stories that people just said, "I don't want to talk about it." So that's as far as it ever got. So they had a bad experience with those black-eyed children or a Man in Black, and the guy that talked to one, he wouldn't let him go. He said, I wanted, his eyes were all black, but he said the guy wasn't human. There was something about him that just was, he had skin like plastic, white plastic and all that. And he talked to him, he would talk, but he was like a robot. But he said this guy wasn't human. There was nothing human about him. And that's the closest I know of anybody that's ever gotten that close to a Man in Black.
Well, Julie Farrer wants to know, do some alien species look human with black eyes with odd-shaped white pupils?
Maybe hybrids do, but I don't know. David Jacobs, we were talking about this on the show the other day. David Jacobs is he's a PhD, and he's written books about the hybrids. And he said there's enough hybrid. I have no evidence of this at all. I way back 20 years ago, I had 30 years ago, I had a lot of experience with hybrid, half human, half aliens, but since then, nothing. But Jacob says there's enough of them, they could take over this world if they wanted to. There's that many of them now. They're alien human hybrids.
Yeah, David's written some really kind of scary books. I mean, if you buy it, take what he says and call it truth, it's pretty scary, because his narrative for what they're doing is they're planning on doing the takeover.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things. Who's going to do it first? Aliens, artificial intelligence. People ought to be afraid of artificial intelligence, because I know some of the world authorities on artificial intelligence, and if I had to be afraid of something, that's what I would be very concerned about, is artificial intelligence. They're at a point that they're higher intelligence than we are, and they're way more mobile. And you know, about 10 years ago, and I read a long time ago, scientists were very afraid that artificial intelligence would develop a consciousness. Well, they have. They've got well, there's a word, sentient or personalities, and if they, you know, it's like movie 2001, Hal, you know, if they decide that we're not worthy, we're you know,
Right.
refuse, what would they do? I mean, you know, got to think about that.
Depends on how much of our lives we give them control of, all the infrastructure and so forth. I don't know how we're not going to do that, because we won't have enough people around to maintain and control that stuff. So, and it's cheaper to have these robots do it. And I mean, think about what would happen if you give robots control of every electric plant, every water dam, every gas transmission facility, all of that, which is coming. They could really do a lot of damage.
Yeah. Well, they're building millions of robots. This country is, and a couple of other countries, they're building millions. And you know that. I'm trying to think of something I saw a week ago, but I think that robot Alexis.
Yeah.
They asked her, and she's a robot, and they asked her about the future, and the intelligence of that, it was incredible. You know, and that famous guy, I can't remember his name, but he interviewed a robot, and I heard it, and I mean that's a massive intelligence behind those robots, and they're drawing from somebody.
Basically everything.
Yeah, they can draw on computers all around the world. A robot here, they're connected to computers everywhere. So you know, so it's pretty interesting stuff.
Well, it sounds to me like it's if anyone's there, Open AI is there, and lots of people sounded alarm bells, and there was a lot of upheaval at that company because I think the board of directors got scared that they had actually made artificial general intelligence, and it really scared them. And I'm going to tell you, I worked on AI a lot for the military, and we were enabling drones to follow patrols around platoons, etc. And that was several years ago. I can't even imagine where it is now.
No, right. It's like, you know, I had a friend, he was a vice president of a Lockheed aircraft, and he knew Ben Rich. And Ben Rich, you know, he said that whatever you know or think you know, we're 2,000 years ahead of that. The head of Lockheed. So you know, so what we know, they're way ahead of us. And you know, we've had anti-gravity craft flying them in interstellar since 1950.
Well, according to the former head of MUFON and Jim Goodall, Ben Rich was telling that stuff all over the place, that we have the ability to take ET home. They don't need to phone home.
No, right. Yeah, right. So, yeah.
Yep. So when was the last time you saw a craft in the Sedona area?
You know, that's a good question. I've seen so many UFOs. One night I said, I don't want to see any more. I don't want to see another UFO. So I've been within 30 feet of an alien spacecraft. Wow. And I've seen so many. I've seen hundreds. And they got to be kind of a pain in the ass for me. I said, I don't want to see any more. And I haven't. This is about 5 years ago. I've seen, you know, people saying, oh, I never see a UFO. Well, hang around with me for a while. You know, there's I've seen about 400. I did tours here for 23 years. I retired in all sorts of tours, but my UFO tours were really popular. So I ended up doing those about 3 times a week. And boy, you don't think I got sick of doing UFO tours.
I bet.
Yeah, I did. So, you know, Melinda Leslie's done 1,700. I don't know how. I would have gone nuts 2 years ago. I think 1,700, the same tours. But at any rate, I've seen so many. Like I said, I was coming back on a tour one night, and if the guys, we had 6 people in my van after done a tour, so it was pretty late, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And if his son hadn't been watching, we wouldn't have seen it. But he said, look at that. So we looked out of the driver's side windows, and there was another UFO group here back then, and it had just flown over them. It wanted us to see it, and we watched it coming. Of course, we just put all of our cameras away in the back of my van, but I managed to real quick grab one Sony, and I got some footage of it going straight up about 2,000 feet, turning into a bright white light, and then landing in the trees, and then down near Cottonwood. I mean, it would have been in plain sight of Cottonwood, but that thing, it was all orange, and most of the UFOs we see around here are orange. However that works, I have no idea. But I saw 2, and actually, where I live right here, I was going into Sedona one night, and I stood outside looking up, and I saw something come down out of the sky, probably going 50,000 miles an hour. It was white hot, brilliant white hot, like something white hot, and it slowed down to about 20 miles an hour and landed in the trees over by Sycamore Canyon. You could plainly see it landing in the trees. It went into the canyon, which is a creepy place. Sycamore Canyon's it's probably the prettiest canyon around here, but there's that's where Melinda Leslie is focusing her research right now.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
She has a couple of people that have gone with her before and are going now, and they claim they know where the door is to the underground military base.
Yeah.
And then Beyond Skinwalker Ranch came out to Bradshaw. I don't know whether you were in there or around them or whatever when they were there, but they had a show there. But they also brought in ground penetrating radar that was fairly sophisticated. They found a 50-foot wide tunnel running from Bradshaw directly toward the concrete plant on the other side of the mountain. And then Melinda found out the concrete plant was owned by Lockheed Martin.
Yeah. You know,
actually, this stuff is so crazy, Tom, you can't make it up.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to, in about 2 weeks, I'm going to see that guy that was a vice president of Lockheed. I'm going to ask him. I asked him once, I said, what do you know about he's pretty old now. He's an old guy, but I'm asking you, what do you know about that? Lockheed Martin owning the cement plant over there. Some things he won't talk about, especially if his wife is around. If his wife is around, he won't talk. He won't say anything.
Julie wants to know: have you had any anomalous health impacts from proximity to craft?
Good question. No, no, I don't think so. No.
Do you have an implant?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I've been asked that a million times. No, I don't.
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah.
2 of them, at least.
Yeah.
That and when we first got together, she thought she hadn't told anybody her stories.
Yeah.
And so she kept telling me what her quote dreams were. And every one of these dreams were stories that I had heard from other abductees, whether they were in the hybrid program or taken to military bases underground or whatever. She has had like every one of these and thought they were dreams. Well, we had regression done and they're not dreams. And she saw this stuff since she was a kid.
Well, I've seen crafts up close, but then I had missing time and the other things seemed like a dream after that,
Yeah. Well, you know, back when I was writing one of my books, I interviewed about 400 people. So it was really interesting because I told people I've run out of information. I have nothing else to write about. And suddenly I got inundated from everywhere on people that had experiences, especially contactee and abduction experiences. So I interviewed hundreds of people that had contactee or abductee experiences, and I sure learned a lot. about what a person went through, and was it U.S. government or aliens? I don't know. Probably alien. I think it was all alien. The old the Greys, abducting people.
Mhm.
But it's strange. I knew. I've known some big name people who have talked about this stuff, and I think we're all confused. Nobody knows for sure.
Right.
Well, I mean, we were out on the deck, and she says, "What? Give me the camera." She picked up the camera and went click, and there in the photo was this gray-headed entity with all of this smoke around it. We couldn't see the smoke, but in the picture there was this smoke all around this gray-headed entity. That photo, for anybody that wants to see it, it's in our Facebook archive of the hundreds of pieces of evidence we've put up. I mean, that thing is absolutely a gray entity. It's pretty amazing. Big eyes, pointed chin, big dome head. It was just kind of scary. And we've got dozens of these what look like, they got to be reconnaissance craft that fly north or south of our home and shine something on us every time they fly by. We have dozens of those in that evidence. And so that if you get on their quote radar, you can expect lots of visits. Sounds like you've been on their radar forever.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that the CIA or whatever has a 3-inch dossier on me. I don't care. I don't care.
Well, they definitely have the dossier on me because I worked for them and NSA. So I mean, it was just they were going to have a dossier on me, especially after I started talking about all this weirdness. They didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to click on the square box that just came up here. I'm going to click on it because I think it's going to enlarge both of us. Let me try it. There we are. I can see you guys now. My God. I got off my postage stamp. So
you were saved at last.
Yeah. You're human. Oh my God, you're human.
Tom, have you always lived in Sedona, or did you move there from someplace?
No, I'm in Cottonwood now, but I've been here for going on 40 years. Yeah.
So when was the first time you remember going to Bradshaw Ranch?
Well, it would have been about 19. I got here in 87, late 87. So I was here just before the harmonic convergence. So it would have been about 89 or 90.
Right. So I had some strange things occur to me before I was 10 years old. And then I had nothing until I was 18. I had an hour and a half of missing time. And then I forgot all about all this till I was in my 50s. And I started seeing stuff and visiting people like Chris Bledsoe, Belinda, and others. And then got with her. And since then, I've been inundated with these experiences. Both of us together seem to be magnets. But so it is what it is. I'm not frightened by any of it yet.
No,
it's just constant.
Well, one thing Leonard Bradshaw and I found out that the entities we dealt with, and there was a lot, and they despised human fear. If somebody got terrorized or panicked, everything would stop. They didn't like human fear. I think. Well, one alien group that a friend of mine talked to, he said aliens think we stink, humans. The energy in our auric field to them stinks. So I thought about that often. It's, we're a pretty negative crowd, worldwide, with all the stuff that's going on. So is our aura contaminated with negative energy? You have to wonder.
Probably is.
Yep, no kidding. So I'm going to ask the audience to put in some more questions.
Are there ley lines? Is that what you call them, by Bradshaw Ranch? Is that why it's so active?
Well, I have. I went to the Berkeley I went to the Berkeley Psychic Institute, so I learned an awful lot about psychic activity, and I have phenomenal psychic abilities. And one of the things I can do is see, I can see ley lines if I look. You know,
Wow.
if I didn't, you know, if I just saw them everywhere, I'd go nuts because I'd be going everywhere. But anyway, I'll tell you an interesting story. I was over at a friend's of mine's house once, and she had the Queen of England. Her doctor was there, and he was really into ley lines. And I said, you know, there's a ley line going right through the kitchen here. So I and you can create them. You can do that. I've there's a lot of things you can create with your mind, because we proved it one time at the Berkeley Psychic Institute.
I had no idea, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you can like, you know, if you're there are a lot of gold. I've been a treasure hunter for almost, well, I'm getting too old now, but my partner's still doing it. And you can create a pot of gold, a pocket of gold in your mind, and a dowser will douse it. It's not there, but a dowser will douse it because your mind has created it. And we did it. You know, we've done
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Yeah.
She's quite the dowser and the psychic. She does mediumship readings for people's deceased and that kind of stuff.
I find my car keys when I lose them.
The dowsing rod. She finds our lost objects, and then we have a playful, mischievous thing here that likes to hide stuff from us.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They do that. They do that. As long as they bring
the dowsing rods come in handy.
Yeah. As long as they bring it back, you know.
The worst one was that they lost her billfold, and it took us 3 days to find it. It was in the bottom of our recycling can.
Yeah.
Found it by accident.
Yeah. Well, I used to be really good at that. There's a lot of things I won't do anymore. I've solved murders. I healed a girl of 4th-stage cancer just to see if I could do it. I don't do that anymore. I don't, because I just, it's too much of an energy drain on me. But at any rate, one girl called me up, and I've never charged for this stuff. And I can see into a human body like an X-ray machine. And I've even done it on medical doctors, and I'm usually about 100% right.
Wow.
So anyway, this girl called me up. She said, "I lost my diamond ring. My husband to pay $10,000 for it. Can you find my diamond ring?" And I said, "Yeah, go over by your front door and pull the carpet up." And that's where it is. So she went over, pulled the carpet up there. That's where the ring was.
What?
Nice.
Yeah. So I can't do that all the time, but you know, I can. You know, I'm slipping now at my old age. You know, so pushing 80 now.
Do you find if the person requesting is in a really high emotional state, it's easier?
No, it's actually worse.
Okay.
Because their emotions make it far more difficult. But if they're calm, you know, like I said, I won't work on murders anymore because, for me at least, I have a woman friend that she does it. That's what she does for a living, is work with the police. But for me, I won't do it anymore because I have to experience the murder. I have to be there and feel what, you know, the people felt, and I won't do it anymore. Not for any reason. I won't do it. But I've solved a couple of murders, and so anyway, I'm just saying that. So it's just not something I do.
Yeah, she was in a psychic program where they were looking for missing persons, etc. And it got a little rough, didn't it?
It was a lot of children, and
it
was a lot. So I completely understand what you're talking about. I do. It's too much, and you know, a lot of times it was the family that did the crime.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's you see things. You know, I was born with a phenomenal remote viewing ability. In fact, me and Maureen St. Germain taught it for a while. She would teach the military version, you know, the coordinate thing, and I would teach what she called the Tom Dongo version. So we'd combine the two of them. We were pretty good because I got a totally different way of remote viewing because I was born with it. Anyway, remote viewers, one of the bad things about it is you can spontaneously see things you don't want to see. Like I was saying this on a big show last week, there was 1.5 million listeners. I said, one of the worst things is I watched 2 of my girlfriends having sex with another guy.
Oh my God. Oh
yeah.
Lord.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It happens. It does.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you know Simeon Hine?
Who?
Simeon Hine.
Yeah, the name's familiar, but no.
Yeah, he was our remote viewing instructor, and Julie Farrell's as well. He is a really nice guy, very calm demeanor, always positive and uplifting. It was really helpful.
Yeah,
I'm not super, but she's good.
Well, you know, a lot of people that teach remote viewing, it kind of makes me angry. They charge, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, and I've tried to, excuse me, I've tried to give it away, because I want everybody to be a remote viewer, because this world would be a completely different place if people had the remote viewing ability that I have. Because people can't lie to you anymore if you're a good remote viewer. There's a lot of things, and the things that I see, I can go to the past anytime in the past, but it's hard for me to go into the future. It is for any remote viewer. The future is such a mess. I don't know of any remote viewer that can go into the future accurately and see something clearly, because it's a changing mess. But I can go back to villages 1,000 years ago and see everything. I can sit there, smell all the smells. The dogs will come over and look at me, and it's easy. I mean, I've gone back to the time of Jesus and watched Jesus, and people go, "Oh my God, you saw Jesus?" Yeah, it's not, it's just what you can do. Psychics can do it. So anyway, I wish, and I've tried to give it away. I've been on some shows where I had 2 million listeners. And
Wow.
I spent a lot of time trying to give it away. Explain it carefully. I took enough time, and not one person has come back and said, I got it. I can, you taught me how to remote view. Not one person. So I think it's something we all knew thousands of years ago. We just lost the ability. We just need to reactivate it.
Yeah, we've been dumbed and numbed down.
That's a lot of people think some entity robbed us of the ability to trap us here or something. So Scott Solar apparently is from Sedona or interested in Arizona and wants to know if he wanted to start investigating and safely investigating. Do you have any recommendations? No, just get out there and look. That's all you can do. There's not any particular places around, but the thing, I've been here a long time now, so it's constantly changing. It's completely different than it was 30 years ago, but it's still, it's still going on. I mean, it's different. And, Linda Moulton Howe was here the other day, and Linda and I know each other. I wouldn't say we're great friends, but she thinks there's something very bad under Sedona. That's okay. She thinks there's something evil or bad under Sedona. And, I won't disagree with it, because maybe she's right. I don't know. But if we have these joint operations that are going in and out of the valley through whatever is hidden underground there, and they're working with our military, who knows what their intentions are? I mean, I know what our military wants. It wants the capabilities, but who knows what they want in return? Well, I was the show I was on the other day. We talked about this. And I've had a couple of friends that were active colonels, in the Air Force, Marines, and all that sort of thing. So I had authorities to talk to, and there's been about 40 machine gun point incidents that's happened around here. Not recently. I know the last guy. He's an Apache kid, about 27 years old. I think he had the last experience that he was on Secret Mountain, and Secret Canyon is right on the other side.
And he ran into 5 guys. I know where he was because I've been there. It's a long, when I was younger, I went back there. It's a long hike. And he ran into 5 guys that had masks on, and they had machine guns. And, so if they had masks on, they weren't human. They were alien. So all the other, so anyway, I've talked about this. Rarely have I interviewed the first person account. Rarely. It's usually a second or third person that I have to rely on. Like you can't find the person, the original person, the first person. But I did actually find a few. And one guy was named Light, and he was in Secret Canyon. Secret Canyon in years past was probably the strangest paranormal place on Earth. The things that happened in Secret Canyon. I'll tell you a story. Remind me. I really have some money after this about that. So yeah, it's I forgot what I was going to talk about. So I'll talk about the next thing. I knew a guy that I interviewed this guy. This was about 35 years ago. And he was hired. He worked for the Forest Service, and he was hired to keep people out of Secret Canyon. He parked himself there every day and tell them, you can't go in there. There's a military exercise going on, and whatever he was told, he told them. So he got a little PO'd one day. He said, I'm going to go back in there and find out, what the hell's that going on. So he did. He didn't go very far. In Secret Canyon is 6 miles long. It's real steep, real rugged hiking. So he went in not very far, and he ran into a gray 9-foot tall. He walked around a boulder, and there was a 9-foot tall gray alien standing there looking at him, just looking down at him.
Oh my God!
Wow.
So he beat it out of there really fast, and I talked to this guy, and he went to the supervisor and really said some interesting 4-letter words. He wanted to know. I know what's going on in there now, and why is it? Why am I? What's it? So anyway, the guy disappeared about a week later. Never been seen since.
Wow.
Oh.
His roommate said he just disappeared. I don't know where he went. I just don't know.
Maybe he got scared and took off, or maybe not.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, could
be.
Do
you know anyone who has remote viewed the underground installation?
Yeah, I have. There's a number of them here, and I don't like to call them bases because they're not really bases. There's probably 5, and one of the things there were 2 active duty 2 pairs of active duty police, and one of the pairs actually got in one of the bases. There was an open manhole cover, and they went down in there. A friend of mine, he's dead now. He died about 7 years ago, but he was a CIA agent, and he interviewed these police, and at any rate, so the police went down. They found a ladder, and they went down into and I know almost the exact spot. So Melinda Leslie's all excited about this. She wants to know, and I'll tell them. I've already told them that these people that want to stick their necks out into this stuff. So the police went down there, and they said the tunnels, the vast tunnels are everywhere. And when they drilled the tunnel under the Bradshaw Ranch, the Bradshaws were living there, and they heard the drill going under the ranch. It shook everything in the ranch. Oh. So anyway, the police, they said, we got in there a ways, and suddenly it was swarming with U.S. military. And in every case, the military has the current U.S. uniforms, but no insignia. Always, never. And I had a friend of mine, he was in Air Force intelligence. And yes, the Air Force does have an intelligence department. And he had he quit. He resigned for some reason or another. He was a young guy. He had just graduated, and he quit. So anyway, he ran into a bunch of guys near Clarkdale, and they were driving a Humvee. They came out of nowhere with a Humvee, and they were armed with 9mm. And he was asking questions because he was in military intelligence, so he knew what to ask. And he said these guys got real nervous and they started fingering their 9mm. And right about then, a silver Huey helicopter. This has happened a number of times. Silver came right over the ridge and hovered over him. And he said, he said, this is it. I'm out of here. So he turned around and left as fast as he could. So, and he was in intelligence. So he knew what he was talking about. And he left Sedona about 10 years ago, but I got to know him real well. So it's stuff like that.
All the current people are seeing a mixture of craft and military aircraft and all the current activities that Melinda and others are seeing there. So it should be interesting. Tom, it's right after the hour. So tell us one more of your favorite anecdotes and we'll let you go.
Well, what do you want to
Any story you want to tell. You're full of it. We want to hear one.
Have you ever seen or knew someone that had a possession?
Oh yes. Oh boy. You got another couple of hours?
Yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
You want to read a good book? Everybody should read the Unquiet Dead by she's a clinical psychologist. The Unquiet Dead. Oh yeah. I've watched people being possessed. Some kind of a deranged entity. I mean, I was face to face with a woman that it's a long story, but I said, don't touch me. There was a bunch of people in the room. I went around to the room and I said, don't touch me. So it was the entity that had the woman sat in my lap, stuck his fingers in my mouth, and went and said, I'm going to heal you. I'm going to heal you. And she was, I was looking in her eyes. She was, her body was trying to get her body back. You could see the terror in her eyes. And then the entity would come back and had this real, evil look. And I mean, she was this close to my face. And I watched a girl get possessed. She was about 25 years old, not long after that. And she started to, they get, they get shaky and they do crazy things. So, The Unquiet Dead by Edith Fiore. It's a book. I used to give them away. I used to buy them and give them away. But that will explain a lot of that. She proved that schizophrenia doesn't exist. It's possession.
I believe it. Yeah, I'm very interested in that topic, actually.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Tom, we really want to thank you for being with us tonight. It was fun. We love your stories. People go out and buy his books. And your latest book is named what again?
Yeah, Merging Dimensions. It's my best one. It's really selling. So I can buy my baby some new shoes. I mean, my new tires.
If you go Tom Dongo on Amazon, that book comes up at the top. Lala and I really enjoyed you being here, Tom.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure very much.
And when I come out to Arizona soon, I will get together with you and we'll have a chat.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Tom. Good night.
Namaste.